Hi everyone. So in this assignment, we are going to be reviewing some material which you are going to need for your final assessments. It does say exam here, but there isn't really going to be an exam. Instead, your final 30% will be made up entirely of a series of projects. So since we did news reports earlier in the year, that's what we're going to be reviewing in this assignment to make sure you know how to write a news report. And make sure you know what needs to go in a news report. So if you look at the document here for this review assignment that I have given you, you will see that I've also included a lot of the material from your original assignment back in February, although I've taken out the sections that aren't really relevant here. Okay, so your assignment is going to be to write a news report. It should be 4 to 5 paragraphs. So remember that involves an introductory paragraph, which is what we call a lead if it's a news report, right? Remember your lead needs to include your 5 W's and should be very short, concise, right? It should just be a couple of sentences. You'll need a concluding paragraph and you need 2 or 3 body paragraphs. So in total, that's going to be 4 to 5 paragraphs. Okay? And the topic of your news report is going to be Ontario high school students return to school as COVID-19 pandemic nears its end. So this is going to be at some point in the future, whenever that is, you're going to be writing a news report about the first day of school once everyone is actually able to physically go back in the school and be inside the buildings again. Okay, so you can talk about how that first day maybe goes, how people feel about it, how teachers feel about it, how students feel about it, maybe how parents feel about it. You could have politicians talk about it, but how is that first day back going to go? So just to quickly review down here, formatted of a news report, you're going to have to create a headline. So what I have here kind of looks like a headline, although a headline wouldn't have a period after it. So you could use something similar to this or create your own. Right, you need a byline, which is your name. You're the author of the report, so you write your name underneath the headline. And then you get into the actual news report itself. So you write your lead paragraph, which involves your 5 W's, who, what, when, where, and why. And then you need your H as well, how, right? Remember that you get as many of these as possible into your lead paragraph. So who, what, when, where, why. So I should put why in there. So what caused it, and also a how. So remember again that you're not always going to get the why and the how fully in your lead paragraph. Those might end up being more in your body paragraph, but you should certainly have at least who, what, where, and when in your lead paragraph. Okay? Your body paragraphs, this is where you're going to explain things in detail. And remember that news reports follow an inverted pyramid structure. So you start off with the most broad overview of what's happened. So you can think of the headline as really being the majorly most broad view of what's happened, because you could read from the headline what's happened. Oh, okay, so high school students are going back to school because this pandemic is almost over. So that would be a very broad overview. You don't know very many details about the event, but you generally know what's happened. And then as you get into the body paragraphs, you get into more specifics, maybe how the first day of school went for particular students, if there were problems, if there were things that went well, and this is where you're going to include quotations, right? So remember, quotations go inside these quotation marks, right? Those things. So you need quotations from people. And remember that when you have a quotation, you need to include the person's full name, right? Their first name and their surname. And you also need to include their job title, or at least how they're relevant to the situation. So you could say somebody, for example, is a grade 9 student, or an ESL student, or a science student, or a science teacher, principal, mayor, premier, whatever you are using. But make sure you have their title as well as how they're relevant to the situation. Okay, so you're going to have details about the first day back in school in both of these paragraphs, and you're going to have a quotation in each. So you need to have 2 quotations minimum. You can have 3 body paragraphs if you wish, but the minimum number of body paragraphs is 2. followed by a concluding paragraph. So that's all that's really required here. I've given you this outline, which you can use. So who, what, I should probably have a what in there. So let me add that. What happened? Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then you can create your own headline. Again, this sets you up so you can create your quotation, and then you're going to write an actual rough draft. Well, you're going to write a newspaper article. This is just review, so I'm not expecting you to go through the entire process of rough, good, and all that stuff. This is just to give you practice, so there won't be any pure editing here. I will just be the one to evaluate it. So this is what I'm going to use. It's going to be very simple, just this checklist here, and I'm going to write some comments in there. So again, this is not really a major assignment or anything like that. All that stuff is over once you've completed assignment 12. What this is just review to get you prepared for the actual final assessment material, that final 30%, which we will likely be starting next week. All right, that's about everything I have to say here. Have a good day.